All right. What's up, everybody? Steven here, the Horror Freak 85, and here with Miss Boomstick. And we got maybe about 5 minutes until John Oak Dalton will be joining us, writer and director. So, and okay. As I'm getting text here, it's like, not from him. No, don't worry, we're good. I just had to check something real quick, but yeah. So, of course, he did Noah's Shark, Jurassic Prey, Scarecrow County, Shark Encounters of the Third Kind. So, okay. Oh, yep, I see that. You're on. Okay. All right.
Yeah, the Shark Encounters of the Third Kind. That's such a unique idea.
That is, yes, for sure. And let's see, Calamity Jane's Revenge, whole bunch there. So the girl in the crawl space. So we'll be talking about all those in just a few minutes. So what else has been going on this week? I saw that they have they're going to start a Scream 6.
I saw that.
So that'll be good. I still haven't seen the new one yet, but
no, I haven't either.
But I'm not surprised that they're going to do another one. I'm sure they'll do like a trilogy off that. Even though it's not officially cast or all, but people are hoping that maybe Kirby will show up, Hayden Panettiera's character from Scream 4. So who knows? It could be a good.
Uh-oh, you froze.
No, you froze. That was weird.
Yeah, on my screen, you froze.
Hey, are we doing the opposite freezing again? That's always fun.
Can you hear the crinkling of a bottle, by the way?
I heard something.
Okay. I was just wondering if my mic was picking. My dog got a hold of a bottle. She's chewing on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I hear something in the background there.
I was just curious if my mic was picking it up.
Yeah, I hear it.
She likes to chew them until she pops the lid off. Then when she does that, she don't want it no more.
Like get all the air out, just bite down.
Yeah, mutilated flat bottles that we put in our recycle bin all the time. I'm wondering if people at the recycle plant, when they go through, it's like, what the hell happened to these?
Bottle rockets. Oh man. Dogs do the weirdest things sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what her obsession is with bottles, but she just absolutely loves bottles.
I saw on TikTok that if you put a tape, it deals with cats instead of dogs, but if you put a square on the floor, the cat will automatically sit in it. Like they sit in the square, like they'll look at it and sit right inside, and someone had tested it out and they're like...
Yeah, I don't know if mine might do that. I don't know. Depends if he wants to act like it's jackass self. We found out he does the little asshole, knock things off of a shelf, almost on command. So we kept putting this one item. He was sitting on top of my dresser, and he was sitting there. And my husband kept putting something there, and it's as soon as he put it there, he just boop, knocked it right off.
Well, there was one where the cat was about to knock something out off the counter, and they took a stuffed animal. It was acted like they were killing it and frying it up, and then the cat looked at it and pulled it back onto the shelf. Nope. It's funny. I discovered the craziest thing with the iPhone. I guess it's been around for a while, but if you have an iPhone, and if in Harry Potter the wand is Loomis to light it up, if you do this, it's like, hey Siri, Loomis.
Okay. That's bright.
You say Loomis, and then it does that. And then if you say, hey, Siri, Knox, it'll turn it off. So, hey, Siri, I guess it didn't pick it up that time. Knox. But anyway, yeah, if you want to be a wizard, there you go.
That's weird. Yeah, I've never had an iPhone, so I didn't
know. Here's John, so hello.
Hey, everybody.
I was pretending to be a wizard. So with the iPhone, if you say Loomis, it'll turn on the flashlight. And if you say Knox, it'll turn it off, just like the wand in Harry Potter. Little iPhone hack I found out there. But welcome. How are you doing tonight?
So far, so good.
So, all right. So we got Dalton tonight as our guest, as I mentioned earlier. So welcome. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll go ahead. When did you start writing, and who inspired you? Did you do a lot of reading? Any particular authors or anyone?
Oh gosh, I really think that to be a good writer, you really have to read a lot. So I've always been a real active reader, and all the way to childhood. I think I really started really wanting to be more of a cartoonist, and my cartooning has never been that good. So when I started seeing my word balloons were bigger than my pictures, and I started really working on more writing. I was really interested in being a playwright for a long time. I was really interested in theater in high school, and I won some high school playwriting contests that a couple scripts on my own and a couple I wrote with a friend. When I went to college at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, which is where David Letterman went to school, he has a scholarship there called the Letterman Scholarship, and it's awarded based on a contest where people enter projects. And I was the first person to win one with a screenplay, and that was in 1987. So I always say that my first big break was from David Letterman.
Nice.
And to tell you how long ago, I was the first person to win just with a screenplay, not with a project like a video project or something. And, back at those days in the 80s, there were still a lot of professors around that had David Letterman as a student or knew of him. And so back then, you could get tickets to the show real easily. So so what they did is they just gave me the number hey, this is a number to their office, and which I'm sure they wouldn't do now, and called and talked to David Letterman's assistant. They give you tickets to the show. And spring break my senior year, which was 1988, my wife and I drove out there and went to the Letterman show. It was so long ago. The musical guest was Terrence Trent D'Arby. You'll have to Google that. I know you guys are too young for that.
Yeah, I was alive in the 80s. I just don't.
You were alive. That's good.
I just don't remember that name, but I'm horrible with artists.
Well, I was alive in '85.
That's good. So Isaiah Thomas was the guest. The Detroit Pistons had just won the NBA championship, and musical guest was Terrence Trent D'Arby. Chris Elliott jumped out of a hatch in the studio back when he was on the show. Anyway, so that tells you that time period. So I always say that was my first payday, was winning a Letterman scholarship with a script. And again, I was really interested in playwriting, but wasn't sure really how to get into it. So I really started thinking about being more involved in screenplays. I actually worked in television. I was a television production person. And, fast forward maybe 10 years or so, I was doing a show. I was directing a show, like a minority affairs show, minority public affairs show on a public broadcasting station in Muncie. And a guy named Ivan Rogers was the guest. And, if I have no other goal in life, I really want people to know about Ivan Rogers. He was a really tremendous person. He's since passed away, but he was such an interesting guy. He had come up as he'd done martial arts, and so he became a bodyguard. This is like in the 70s and 80s. He got to know people like Fred Williamson. He went to high school in Indianapolis with now I'm drawing a blank. The guy in Dawn of the Dead that survives at the end. I'll think of his name in a couple of hours, but so he was connected to a lot of people out there. So he would sometimes take parts in big movies, really small parts, so he could star in his own action movies. And he was just a larger than life person. But he had come to this show. So now this is like in the late 90s. He'd come to the show, and afterwards I had said to him, hey, do you want to go get coffee? I'm interested in movies. And he was very gracious, and we went and got coffee and just struck up a friendship. And at the time, he was working on a movie called Forgive Me, Father, which was, a heartwarming tale of a hitman who becomes a priest, to, mend his ways, but then his brother gets killed, so he goes back to get revenge. It's one of those kind of things.
Right.
And it was shot on 16 millimeter, and to save money, they were editing on videotape with open edge numbers. And I was a pretty good videotape editor at the time. I worked at a TV facility, and I can say this now because I don't work there anymore, but I had offered to help Ivan with it. So I went in after hours and weekends, and I did a bunch of editing on the movie on videotape, and then a film editor matched the edge numbers on the film that was a way to save money. And so I actually have an assistant editor credit on that movie.
Oh, nice.
And so when we were done with the film, Ivan said, let's settle up financially. And I was like, I will take nothing if you will help me promote some of my scripts. Because at that time in the 90s in Indiana, where I'm from, I thought, there's not going to be a lot of movies made here, but I could write a screenplay from anywhere. So Ivan was good to his word, and he had a lot of LA connections, and he helped me shop some scripts around, and I ended up selling them. In 1999, I sold a movie called Player in the Game, which was an action movie, to the producer Jeff Griffiths, who I think has passed away since as well. This is a late 90s thing, so it's like Ray Don Chong might be attached to it, is that kind of 90s thing going on. And so it was in the trade magazines, in Hollywood Reporter and in Variety, that this movie was going to be made. It was in pre-production. Never got made, by the way. Spoiler alert. But it was in the trades that So my goal at that time was I was going to write 100 letters to producers, directors, production companies, and say, if you read this week's trades, you'll see that, my movie Player in the Game is in pre-production, blah, blah, blah. And, I just thought this is like kind of very early days of email. So most of these were real letters, like real letters I put in the postal service. And my goal was to write 100 letters because, there's this old story about John Kennedy Toole when he wrote Confederacy of Dunces, which is considered one of the great novels of the 20th century. He had said he was going to write 100 letters to try to get it accepted. And when he got the 100th rejection, he would kill himself, which is actually what he did. And that was not my plan, but I always thought it was kind of interesting that he had set that goal of sending 100 letters. And posthumously, his mother continued to send it out after John Kennedy Toole had died. And she eventually got someone interested in it, and it became one of the great novels of the 20th century. And so I guess that's Don't Give Up on Your Dreams, number one. But anyway, I thought I'll write 100 letters. So that was my goal, was to write 100 letters. So at that time, I'm working at Ball State University in a video production area, and I had a student who had all these B movies he was really into. And at that time, I worked a lot of our work was done on what was called the video toaster at the time. And Joe, his name was Joe, and Joe came in one day and said, "I've got this movie, and I think it was done on a video toaster." And I was like, "That can't be true." So he gave me the movie on VHS, and I watched it, and it was the Polonia Brothers' Blood Red Planet. That was the first time I'd ever heard of the Polonia Brothers. And Joe was a big fan of theirs. He had a bunch of their movies. So I watched that. I forget what I watched next. And then I watched Drainiac, which was done by Brett Piper. And I saw Mark Polonia's name in the credits. I thought, this guy's got something going on, So I looked him up, and he worked at a college, kind of had a job like mine, a video production job. And I was like, I sort of realized he was about my age, and well, I'll just put a letter to him in here, like I'll just make it one of the 100 letters, whatever. So remember, I had something in the trades. I mean, like in the Hollywood trades, like a movie or on the same page as all the other Tom Cruise movies and everything else. So I wrote 100 letters and I only got one response. And of course, that was Mark Polonia. The person that wrote me back. Of all those people, 100 people, only Mark wrote me back. And we kind of struck up a friendship. You know, we had a lot of things in common. And what ended up happening is, you know, we tried a couple projects, didn't take off. And then he wanted to do a Bigfoot movie. And so I'll write that. And I was kind of getting a little discouraged because, like, that Player in the Game didn't get made. Another movie I was working on didn't get made. I mean, just all these things, it just started, things weren't going my way. And I was trying to get more into the theater world, not the direct-to-DVD world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't think there was much, I didn't know much about it. And, but that is the first movie of mine that got made. It's called Among Us, and it's a Bigfoot movie. It came out in maybe 2002 or 2004, around that time period. And I'm really proud of it. It turned out really nicely. So while I went to the set to help because my background's TV production. I thought I can go and help a little bit. So I went to help. And while we were out there, the distributor had asked Mark for 3 more movies, like right away. And he had turned to me and said, "Can you write 3 more movies for me?" And I was like, "No, I can't write that fast, in a year. I can't write 3 more movies." Now, flash forward like 20 years, and I wrote 3 movies for him in like 6 weeks. But back then, I didn't think I could write that fast. So I was like, I can't do that. And so I went back to their house. And John Polonia was a very, very, he's since passed away, but he was a very, very prolific writer. And he was full of ideas all the time. And he had this cardboard box sitting on the floor of his house in his room with all his videos that he owned. And he had all these handwritten scripts. And they decided they would adapt a couple of those, and then I would write the third one from scratch. But I would rewrite 2 other ones. And the first one I rewrote was called Peter Rottentail, which got made. And people watch it every Easter, and it's this crazy thing. I mean, every Easter, people are asking me about. I mean, it has never gone away. People have never lost interest in it. But, it was just this crazy rewrite I did over John's script. And I think it's very raw and funny. And then I did a rewrite over one called Razor Teeth, which is a piranha movie that hardly anyone knows about or has seen. And you don't hear anything about it. And then
it's actually on Tubi right now.
Yeah, Tubi has basically got my entire career on it right now.
Because I watched
for the
it
longest time, you couldn't hear about it. Yeah, you couldn't see it or hear about it. And that's the one that legendarily, I did a rewrite over it. I went out to Pennsylvania and saw it. And I remember saying to Mark afterwards, I'm like, "Man, not much of my rewrites in there." And he was like, "Well, I think we used about half of it." And I was like, "I think you used about 25% of it." And he said, "That's what I said, half of it." Never mind. But so then the third one I was going to do for them fell apart and never got done. And I think that's a pretty, I had a 3-movie deal. One of them is considered one of the worst movies of all time, but people watch it constantly. One of them no one remembers ever got made, and then the third one didn't get made at all. And that's pretty indicative of the B movie industry, I think. So, that's kind of the setup, I guess, of how I got into the industry, because I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, which was that the direct-to-DVD market was booming and they needed content badly. So, I had I missed the first real surge, which is where people like the Polonia brothers got in, and Tim Ritter and J.R. Bookwalter and that generation of people. They got in, in that 80s time period when there were mom and pop video stores and they needed content. And then it kind of waned. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a huge DVD boom where they were so hungry for DVD content. And then that started to wane. And when it went to streaming, it was a struggle for people to figure out how to monetize it, like in our world, especially after Amazon cut the legs out from under everybody by not paying as much per minute, for movies, streaming minutes. But that's changing again all of a sudden, because Netflix, who would never carry one of my movies ever, right? Netflix, neither would Hulu. They don't have a stranglehold on it, or Amazon. They don't have a stranglehold on it anymore. As you indicated, there's Tubi, there's Shudder, there's all these places that now need content. Again, all the Roku channels, right? All those Roku channels, they all need content from somebody. And I swear to you, a year ago, I didn't even know there was a Tubi. And now, like, practically everything I've ever worked on is on Tubi, and everybody watches it. So there's a surge again. And I know during my lifetime, there's been 3. I'm going the wrong direction. There's been 3. I missed the first one, the VHS mom and pop boom. I definitely rode the second one DVD, and I'm hoping to keep writing this third one right now. But as long as it will go, because now we're really diversifying streaming platforms, and there's a lot more hunger for all kinds of content. So, but I never intended to start in that field or in the horror field necessarily. It's what was open at the time, and I've really embraced it. I think I've learned that horror fans are the most loyal, and they will follow you, wherever you're going. They don't care. They will stay with you. If you've got fans, they will stay with you. And there's a huge horror community. I think by and large, it's a pretty good community. There's always outliers, but it's a good community, and it's been neat to be a part of that. People remember, there's been times where I have not been as busy or been as active, and whenever I come back, people seem to remember me, and it's a neat thing. So it's worked out really well for me, just because I was in the right place at the right time, and all of a sudden I wrote a couple movies, and I wrote 3 movies in a row, and then all of a sudden more people were asking me, and then all of a sudden, I've got 20. I've probably sold maybe 50 screenplays since then, and 20-ish have been made into movies. So maybe a third. Maybe I've sold 60 and maybe 20-ish. About a third of the movies I've sold have been turned into movies.
So about 25%? No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe 33, maybe a third of them. I think
let's bring it back to the 25%.
I was joking about the 25%. Yeah, half of it.
Half of my movies, yeah.
Yeah.
half of them get made into movies.
Half, yeah. So.
But we was talking about the Among Us. On the trivia part on your IMDb, it says that you wore the Bigfoot suit. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes.
That's awesome.
I'm short in real life, and I'm the little kid Bigfoot at the end that jumps on the car, because John McBride, who starred, is tall, and he does the Bigfoot in most of the movie. But there's a scene where he's driving the car and the Bigfoot jumps on the window, a kid Bigfoot, and that was me. So yeah, I have a small part in that because I was there. I'm an extra in what's been called A Million Things: Da Vinci Curse, Army of Wolves, but I'm in that. I'm up here briefly as a German soldier gets machine gun in the head. My head CGI explodes in that, which you can see in the trailer actually. Nice. And then I'm also in Henrik Kudo's Haunted House on Sorority Row. At the end of the movie, there's a bunch of people going to a haunted house. Like a pretend haunted house, I can't think of the word. They're going to a haunted house at the end, a haunted house show, and I'm one of the people that goes in at the end. So I've tried to make a few little appearances in some movies I've worked on, just because if I go to the set or whatever, and I'm kind of around.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like, be a little monster or whatever, and it's something that's like a little Easter egg almost. Like
head blown off, whatever works.
Yeah.
So, since you've written different ones with aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, have you ever had any encounters with ghosts, or do you believe in the paranormal? And have you drawn any experience for that?
Oh, I do believe in that. I believe there are other like energies that people don't really understand. I think the the biggest, if you really want to really feel like that, have that experience, we actually went to Salem, Massachusetts with my daughter in high school was reading The Crucible, and she was really interested in visiting Salem. And so spring break, I don't know, maybe her sophomore or junior year, we drove to like in the early 2000s. We drove to Salem and visit all the sites, and we did some tours, and there's some things there that will make you kind of think about it a little bit. We stayed at an inn there, and we had like the attic room, and it was one of those places when you walk in, like there was a certificate by the door, like one of these shows, like a ghost hunter show, had been there and gone through it, and they put the certificate by the door, and I was like, okay, whatever, But it was we were
Certified haunted.
It was kind of eerie, and my daughter thought for sure that there was something there, like something had touched the back of her head, like stroked her hair when we were in there. And she was a teenager, but she was supposed to sleep on a pull-out bed in the front room, and it was a one bedroom, and she would not sleep out there. She got a roll-out cot and slept at the foot of our bed. She was too scared to sleep out there. And there was one time where I was in there kind of dozing, and I thought I saw her or my wife kind of look in the door and leave, and then I realized later that they weren't there. So that is so I definitely think it is funny, because I actually I don't live very far from a house that's considered pretty haunted in this area. And I'll tell you something else, a little bit of trivia. So I live very close to a graveyard. So does Henrik Kudo, who I've worked with a lot, and so does Mark Polonia. All three of us live very close to a graveyard. Just a little bit of trivia there. But but there's definitely there's a house, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 miles from here, that's considered quite haunted. Very commonly considered haunted. And there's also one of these old, you always hear about Crybaby Bridge and everything like that. There's one here called Monkey Jack Bridge, and that is considered very haunted. And about a half mile north of me, there's a place called 5 Points, which is where 5 roads come together. And people have always said that was very witchy, there's some sort of, because there's 5 points and everything. So, yeah, I guess I'm kind of surrounded by it right now.
I grew up in central Illinois, and there was a town not too far away. It was kind of more rural, that we had a Crybaby Bridge there as well. But yeah, the house I'm in now, we've had some crazy experiences.
Oh, there's people that are very serious people that I know that don't mess around, that really do think there's something to all that. So I don't disagree with that. But I live in a very rural area as well. Matter of fact, I think Stephen, you had mentioned that you watched The Girl in the Crawl Space, but that's actually shot at my house.
Oh, really?
About 80% of that was shot at my own home, and that's my property for the most part that you see there, the chicken coop and all the outside grounds, the farmland and all that. That's all right around my house. So that kind of gives you an idea of where I live.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I see you post about your chickens a lot. They look so cute. I've never owned chickens, but they look cute.
I had a chicken for 10 years. And at one point it was funny. She actually one time flew up on the table and ate what was like pecking that chicken. We're like, no, don't go cannibalistic now.
Did that chicken lay the entire time?
So almost, I mean, yeah, for a long time. And I even taught her to crow. Like I would crow really loud, and all of a sudden she'd like repeat it and like flap up, and like, okay, got a crowing hen. That's interesting.
That might have been a rooster, Stephen. I'm not sure.
No, she laid eggs. No, we ate her
Okay.
eggs. So that's why I was like, no, I know the difference. And it wasn't like a full-on crow. It was like an imitation of it. Like she was trying
Ah,
to imitate me. Yeah.
I had one that we had for about 5 years that eventually was caught by a predator, but we've had some really long-term hens too. This is almost an entirely new flock right now, but we had some really long-term hens, and they definitely have their own personalities and things they want to do and how they want to act. And
Yep.
it's fun. It's fun. My batch I started brooding this summer just started laying. So they're actually laying right now. So we've got about a dozen. I have 11 hens, and I've got about a dozen eggs right now. They're just little eggs. They're just starting to lay. So I'm hoping that we'll start getting regular eggs. It'd be nice to have this time of year.
Yeah, I saw you had a green egg. That was so interesting.
I
don't know much about chickens, but yeah, I saw you had a green egg. Is that like different on the inside at all, or is it?
I haven't.
Yes, some green ham comes out of it. Green eggs and ham.
Yeah, green eggs and ham. So that is they're called. It's not really a breed. They're called olive eggers, and they are bred with black marans, which I have black marans, and Americanas. And black marans lay really brown eggs, and Americanas, which I hope I have. I haven't seen any. I thought I got some Americanas, but I haven't seen any blue eggs yet. But they lay blue eggs. So I got an olive egger, which is it's not an official breed, but when people breed black marans and Americanas, that hen lays an olive egg because it's like a mix of a blue and brown egg. So it's not an official breed, but that's what they are. So I tried to get hens this time that they would lay multicolor eggs, but I'm beginning to think that the bin at Tractor Supply that was marked Americanas did not have Americana chicks in it because I have a lot of dark brown eggs and I have not seen a blue egg yet. So I begin to suspect that wasn't accurate.
So with speaking of Girl in the Crawl Space and being filmed there and everything, that was one of the first two you directed. How was it from writing it and then directing your own films? How was that transition for you?
Well, what really happened was I had sort of gone maybe a year or two without really being offered anything I wanted to do or really anything much at all, honestly. And I was getting a little discouraged, that I wasn't really getting work like I thought I would or should. And I decided that I would just write a script for myself. I've never really done any spec scripts. Like I've never just started writing something and hoped to sell it. I've always written on command, I guess you would say. And a lot of times, that's my smoke alarm going off. If the house burns down, I'll just carry the computer outside. We'll keep going. I think my wife's baking something in the other room.
I know. I was trying to figure. I didn't realize that was coming for you. I had to figure out what was going on because my dog started freaking out. She doesn't like those.
Oh, my dogs are running around my feet. They hate the smoke alarm.
Yeah, mine does too.
They're actually underneath my desk. Right, you're okay, baby. They're underneath my desk right now.
Yeah, mine's at my husband's butt right now because of that.
Yeah, that was loud. So what was I talking about? Oh, so I hadn't been really offered anything I wanted to do for a while. So I thought, I'm just going to write a script for myself, just because, usually you write a script and Mark will call and say, hey, I need a movie and it's called Noah's Shark. Okay, I'll go do that, or hey, I'm making a movie. And sometimes I already have a poster and a title, Haunted House on Soraya Row had a title and a poster. And then you kind of, sometimes, when I worked with Ivan, a lot of times he would pre-sell movies, right? He would pre-sell the markets and then take that money to make the movie, I mean, there's all kinds of, but I've never just gone out and thought up ideas and had people make movies out of them. I've always been under a contract, for
kind of have like a template, like what to go by, basically.
Sometimes, if I work with Mark, who I know you guys are pretty familiar with, I kind of know, I've written so many movies for him now. I kind of know who's going to be in it. I kind of know his locations. I kind of know you can't write 10,000 Vikings run over the mountain and a giant robot follows them. There's not going to be that kind of stuff. So I just kind of know how to write, low budget movies, and I know how to write for certain people. And I started thinking about, what if I just wrote a movie for myself that only I care, something I care about, instead of write for somebody else. And when I started writing it, because I mostly, I worked in television for about 20 years. I work in marketing now, but back then I worked in television, and I was like, what if I wrote something I could make myself? If I wrote it so it was supposed to be at my house. And so I started working on the script, and with the goal of shooting it at my house. And then I started calling like all the favors I ever had, all the years I'd worked in movies. And the big one was Henrik Kudo. He and I had worked together on probably 5 movies that I'd written for him. Haunted House at Thorny Row, Alone in the Ghost House, Jane's Revenge. I wrote a part for Scare Waves. And I think maybe that's it. But that's 4 or 5 movies that I'd written for him, and I'd gone and helped him on the set a couple times. And he had actually told me, hey, if you ever want to get a movie going, I'll come and DP, I'll produce for you. I mean, he was good to his word. He gave me 5 days. He said, I'll come. He lives in Dayton, and I live about an hour and a half west of him. And he just said, hey, I'll give you 5 days, whatever you want to do, we'll do it together. And that was what tipped it over. And then I started just reaching out to other people. I sort of wrote it with Erin Ryan in mind, who I'd met. She played the girl in the crawl space. And then John Hambrick, who I had gotten to know, I think he's a good actor, and Joni Durian. And I really wrote the 2 parts for them. You'd always write with somebody in mind. I have an old friend who's a local theater guy, does radio shows. His name's Tom Cherry. I really wrote the sheriff's part for him because I thought he would be, I just kind of wrote it with him in mind. And I've never had anything like this happen. Everybody I called said yes. And, I wrote this movie for all these people, and they drove to my house and made it. I mean, it was really crazy. Everybody agreed to help, and we shot it in 2 weekends here at my house. And I thought that I was ready to direct a movie because I'd worked so long in TV, but I found out, it just comes at you like an avalanche. And, I remember the first night, like right before I started shooting the movie, like I was planning for like 20-page shooting days, which is a lot. And I remember talking to a friend who was making a movie at the time. And I was like, how's your thing going? And he was like, oh man, I'm wiped out. We're shooting 10-page days. I was like, what? Man, I'm going to shoot 20-page days. What are you talking about? And so that kind of scared me a little bit at first. And yeah, we shot like 15, 20 pages a day, which is a lot. And, I kind of thought I was ready for that, but it was just like an avalanche coming down the hill. I remember the first day that I ever directed, that night, Mark called me, and it was crazy. Like we had spent 2 weeks, like everybody stayed at my house, not everybody, but like the main cast and crew stayed at my house. We shot all day. I mean, we just kind of hung, we were all there. We ate all our meals together. I cooked it for everybody. My wife helped, my daughter was over here some. I mean, it was just a really intense experience. And the first night Mark called me and he was like, how's it going? I was like, man, I'm wiped out. And he was like, yeah, it's like a train. As he said, it's like a car crash. It happens really quickly and you wake up and you don't remember what happened. I'm like, yeah, it is kind of like that. So he's full of all kinds of wisdom. So yeah, it was a really crazy experience to have all these people that I kind of got to know just be willing to help, And so we shot basically 4 days we shot 3 days at my house. a day kind of driving around the area, and then we spent a day at the community center. I rented that community center that you see in the movie.
Yeah.
And Tom, who played the sheriff, that's where his community theater group puts on plays and radio shows and stuff like that. So he told me, well, I've got this acting troupe, and they probably want to be in it too. So they played all the Dungeons and Dragons people. Mm-hmm. And so they were pretty comfortable with it because they were used to being in that space. And so we shot all that in one day. My goal was that I would just make a movie for myself, and I'd just go to conventions and get a card table and just sell it at a card table. That was really my plan. What I wasn't prepared for was a distributor picking it up. And then it ended up in Walmart and Family Video and just everywhere, streaming everywhere. And I was not prepared for that to happen. Because I really just thought, I'm making this for myself, and I'll do one movie and show everybody I can make a movie, and I'll just go back to doing for other people. Well, the day that Henrik Kuto and I did the audio commentary,
oh, I think he froze.
Yeah, he froze. Yeah, he's been kind of glitching here and there, so hopefully.
Yeah.
Oh, did he talk?
Hi, am I back?
Are we back? Okay. Sorry, you froze for a little bit. Oh,
sorry.
We can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
I've got some rural internet going on. My actual internet is, there's a tower, and a farmer put up a tower, and I have line of sight internet to that tower. And that's where that's how I get my internet. I do not have a line to the house. It is wireless internet to my house from a tower in a farm field.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. But
and you probably got hit by that storm that went through. I know you guys got a little bit of snow. I saw some pictures, but I don't know how much you guys got. I know, my hometown area got almost 20 inches.
Yeah, but you live in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, but my hometown is Central Illinois, and they got we got none.
Yeah, 4 or 5 inches.
But where my parents and all my family and friends live, they got 20 inches.
Yeah, it definitely was north of us, but so the day that we sent Henrik sent the deliverables, the day we recorded the audio commentary, it was January of 19. So I'd shot the movie in March of 18, and we delivered all of it. It was all completely done. We'd actually screened it in October at a film festival here in Indiana, and then we finished it all up and sold it to a distributor, and it was delivered in January of 19. That day, the distributors basically like, well, what else do you have? Well, I had nothing. I was planning on making one movie, and that was it. So that very day, me and Henrik got his 2 dogs, and we started taking the dogs on a walk there in Dayton. And so Henrik lives in Dayton, which is a big city, and I live in a very rural area. So he had his eyes opened about rural life when he came to visit and stay, for 2 weekends. And he told me that my area here reminded him of the movie Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. Yeah. It's a 70s TV movie.
Yeah, that was cool.
And he was like, man, this place reminds me of Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. So we were taking his dogs for a walk, and I was like, do you remember when you said that, my house was like Dark Knight of the Scarecrow? And I'd gotten it and watched it. I watched it on Amazon or something. I went ahead and watched that again because I'd seen it when I was a kid or something. I was like, if I was to redo that movie today, though, I wouldn't make it about a mentally disabled person being tormented. I would make it about like a gay bashing, because that, especially like when I was a kid, that was that was a serious issue. Not so much that somebody would be tormenting a disabled person, but so we got to talking, about it, and I was like, yeah, I'd probably like all these guys, they beat up this kid and he accidentally dies, and then they all grow up and something happens, and then they all have to pay for this, just exact same kind of thing.
Mhm.
And he was like, well, why don't we do that next? I'm like, well, what would we do? And then we just walked the dogs and talked the whole story out. And I went home that day and started writing it. And then we shot it, I think the first week of March. And then we screened it in Iowa City at Film Scream in October. So from the day we said, oh, we should do this in January of 19, in October of 19, it was done. That was the genesis of the second movie. So I was, raring to go on another movie. And so February of 20, actually 2 years ago yesterday, Girl in the Crawl Space came out. And I was in Chicago for work on Monday. And I knew, new movies always come out on Tuesday in video stores. And I knew that it was going to hit Walmart and Family Video the next day. So I was driving home on Monday from Chicago. So I was going like 65 south over towards Indianapolis, So I looked at the map, and then I gotten on Family Video's website and decided that I would look for all the Family Videos between Chicago and my house in Indiana. Say, I'd stop in and say, hey, I'm John Dalton. My movie's coming out tomorrow. I hope you carry it. It was shot here in Indiana, and practically everybody had it, and they wanted to take pictures with me, and it was really neat. Little did I know that in a couple weeks, coronavirus was going to hit. But that was like literally the last thing I did before coronavirus. And I had shot, so in March of 18, during spring break at the college I work at, I shot Crawl Space. Spring break of 19, from the college I work at, I shot Scarecrow County. So here we are coming up March of 20. I had a movie scheduled. I was going to shoot my third movie. So and we were going to start on a Friday night. Everyone was coming in to stay at my house again and all like we've done. And, I had gone to the store. I had making all the sandwiches, for the crew and everything. And it was like on a Thursday, maybe a Wednesday. And the university I worked at was going to close for 3 weeks. Flash forward, we stayed home 17 months. But at the time, we were going to stay home 3 weeks. And I was like, well, I think this coronavirus will probably be over in 3 weeks. I did. I was like, I don't know. If we get locked down, I hate to start this movie and then get locked down. So literally the night before we were supposed to start shooting, I canceled. And I thought, I bet we can shoot the first weekend. But what if it gets really serious and we can't shoot the second weekend? And that is what happened. By the second weekend, we were in lockdown. And I'm glad I didn't start that was now 2 years ago. Is that right? Yeah. And I'm glad I didn't start that, because today I'd have half of a movie instead of no movie. And half a movie's worse, because a couple years have gone by, right? And one person in the cast had a baby. A couple people have moved away. And the house, the night before we went into lockdown, I was actually at the house that we were going to shoot at, the bulk of the movie, taking pictures of different rooms and stuff. And, not only did everyone's personal life change in 2 years, but they could have sold their furniture. I could have really been in a bad spot and had something. I could have spent time and money and had nothing, instead of not spending time and money and still having nothing. That's better than having spent the money and having nothing. So, people keep asking me when, I want to start a new movie. And, it's just really difficult. I'm in the same boat as everybody else, trying to figure out when it's safe, when we can get back at it. I think we're getting there where we can start working on stuff again. But if I'm around vaccinated people and stuff, yeah. But it's still a struggle. And that's not me. That's everybody. That's Tom Cruise making Mission Impossible and everybody else, right? Everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to do things. So I haven't started up on anything. Now, I've written a couple movies during coronavirus, and a couple of them have already come out. Noah's Shark I wrote during coronavirus. I think there's another one. Oh, I did a Western that hasn't come out yet, but it will be soon. So, I did write during coronavirus, but I didn't start on any new movies.
And they have Dune World too. I don't know when
that's right. I wrote Dune World too.
World. Yeah,
I forgot about that. I wrote Dune World.
I had just seen that at Walmart. I think right after Steve told me we had you as a guest, so he was at Walmart. I had seen Dune World. I was like, oh, that's neat.
I'm happy with how it turned out. I got to write like a really, I'm to the point now, I've done so many screenplays. There's got to be some reason why I want to make or direct or write or direct a movie. There has to be a reason, not just to make something, not to make, Ice Pick Killer Part 8 or something. It doesn't. I mean, so when Mark said he wanted to do a science fiction movie, I was like, I haven't really done that many. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do this, but it's supposed to be a desert planet and you live in wooded Pennsylvania, but that's not my problem. He's like, I want this and that, a robot and some worms. Okay, that sounds. But I really love I love 60s science fiction novels. I love Philip Dick, Samuel Delaney, Ursula Le Guin. So I thought I want to do something really psychedelic. I love Soviet science fiction movies like Stalker, Solaris. 70s Soviet movies. And so I was like, I want to do something like that. So, that was the reason for, however the movie turns out, that's not and I guess that's the other reason why I directed my own movies. It's I'm the only one to blame for Crawl Space. If people don't like it, I'm 100% to blame, but as far as movies I've written for other people, some of them have turned out really good and some of them have turned out okay. And, I'm responsible for the script, and I've been proud of every script I've ever written. How they turn out, that's not up to me. Except for in 2 cases, Scarecrow County and Crawl Space. If you don't like those, that's my fault. But if you don't like Dune World, I'm proud of my part. I think my script is really cool. I think the movie turned out pretty cool.
Yeah, we was actually watching it before we went to the store today, and my husband, he doesn't usually like most of the stuff I watch, and he was actually kind of interested in it because he likes
really
more
psychedelic
stuff.
I tried to make it. I tried to write it lean into psychedelic stuff because that's the kind of stuff I like. And then Mark really, really leaned into it. And then Noah's Shark, it just seemed so funny. I thought I should. I think the movie's very funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if other people get the joke, but I wrote it to be humorous. And I think especially Ryan Dalton, who plays the and I wrote it for because I like Jeff Kirkendall, so I wrote a sequel to. It's really a sequel to Amityville Exorcism
with his character,
his character, which I think it's one of Mark's better movies and it's one of Jeff's better parts. So I wasn't asked to put Father Bennett in it. I just did it for myself because I thought it'd be fun if this was Jeff again. And I actually have written him in a 3rd script, Father Bennett, if it comes off that way. I don't know if they'll be able to get Jeff.
Jeff did say he had another movie coming out with Father Bennett. So
he did. Okay,
that's all he said. Yeah,
that's all he said about it. But he did say there is another movie coming with.
Okay, well, I wrote another one with that character that hasn't come out. So, but anyway, I wrote Father Bennett in it, and I think Ryan Dalton is really funny in it as kind of the sleazy televangelist guy. And I don't know, I thought it was really funny. I don't think everybody got the joke, but
I enjoyed it. But like I said, I forget who it was. It might have been Jeff's interview, but I was like, the only complaint I had about that is the shark is the only animal. I was like, I was expecting more animals.
It's it's Noah's Ark. Where are all the animals?
Yeah, that's all.
I was like, there's a hippo on the cover. Come on, I want a hippo movie.
Yeah. Some of these, I have to admit, some covers are a little misleading.
Yeah.
That was one of them. But anyway, I had actually when I wrote it, it was called In Search of Noah's Shark, but I think that's an even better title. But so I'm getting to the point where if I write something for somebody, there has to be a reason why. Something I want to write for enjoyment or interest, some subject I'm interested in, or I think Jurassic Prey that I did for Mark turned out really good. But and I had actually when I wrote that for Mark, I had actually kind of quit screenwriting because my friend Ivan Rogers had died, John Polonia had died very close together, and I was really discouraged. 2 movies came out, didn't have my name on it. I thought they should have. I didn't get paid for another script I did, never got paid. I was just really discouraged. This was like 2009, maybe. So I kind of laid low for a couple years, didn't do anything. I was turning down work. And Mark reached out. He goes, I'm going to do this old-fashioned 50s dinosaur movie like Beast from Haunted Cave, and it's going to be like 50 style, stop animation. I was like, oh man, I really want to do that. So he kind of coaxed me out of retirement, and so did Henrik Kudo, who's a really talented young dude in Dayton. And I was judging a film festival in Richmond, Indiana, where I work, and it was a high school festival. And I remember meeting Henrik when he was in high school in Dayton, and I knew he was kind of making movies and everything. And I was like, well, he might be a good guy to come over and talk to these high school kids. And he was in his 20s, I think, at the time. And I reached out on Facebook, and he came over and gave a good talk to these kids. And afterwards, he's like, oh, we got to work together sometime. I'm like, no, I'm retired. I'm not working on any more movies. But, he reached out again, and he said, I'm making this movie called Haunted House on Sorority Row. And I was like, and so I actually thought, well, I need to know more about this guy. So I rented a movie he had done, or maybe he sent, I can't remember exactly. I think I rented it, Babysitter Massacre. And I thought, man, this has a lot of energy. I thought it was pretty cool. So I was like, I'd like to work with this guy. Plus, he only lives about an hour and a half from me. Like Mark Polonia lives like 14 hours away from me. So it's very difficult to go visit Mark and work on movies. But this guy's an hour and a half. Let's work on a movie together. And Haunted House on Sorority Row, I think, turned out great. I'm really proud of it. It's one of my favorites. And then, he and I just kind of struck it up from there. So they both kind of together brought me out of retirement, basically. Like I had gotten really discouraged with the industry and wasn't going to do it anymore. So, but Jurassic Prey and Haunted House on Sorority Row kind of brought me back, into the fold at the right time because, all these streaming platforms were starting to take off again. We're starting to need content everywhere and all that.
I was actually going to bring up Jurassic Prey. That is one of my favorite ones of yours. I did enjoy the line. I even told Jeff that like my favorite line of his is, "Oh, I've been in a lot of movies people don't recognize me from." So that was
I wrote. It's very meta because some of the movies they talk about in there are Polonia Brothers movies. They talk about Cousin Among Us. There's movies within movies, and one of them I think is either Gladiator Bigfoot or Bigfoot House Party or something. And they talk about that in Jurassic Prey also, that the guy had to play Bigfoot. And so I kind of created a little meta world there. I tried to connect the 2 movies a little bit, but it's really that all the B movie stuff that Jeff, Bob Dennis, and James Carolus get up to, that's very much based on the B movie world. What those characters play. Bob Dennis is really funny. I think he runs his mouth in the whole movie. I think he's really funny. And Jeff's a real good actor. Plus, I really like Danielle Donahue. She did a really good femme fatale. She had told me one time that at the time that was her favorite part that she'd done. So I was glad for that. I tried to make it like a lot of those 50s, like Beast from Haunted Cave and a lot of those movies. They have kind of noirish elements. And I started off like you think it's going to be about a bank robbery and everything, and then it kind of veers off. So she's kind of like a femme fatale character, and somehow she's the one that survives the whole thing, just like a real femme fatale. And at the end, she's almost picking up Mark Poloni at the end, kind of like she's going to keep going from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was definitely the genesis for that. And that's one of my favorites. And I think it turned out pretty good. It's pretty funny.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
It definitely has that 50s movie vibe, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And did you have any questions, Boone?
I thought you was going to say something.
No, I'm just agreeing. I'm just agreeing. And
I know you said most of the stuff you get sent, like basically like a theme or whatever. Do you have like a way to get inspiration of ideas to like continue on that story? Or
Oh yeah,
I'm probably not wording that correctly.
No, I don't know. I like to. I sort of feel like if somebody wants to see a movie I've worked on, they're probably interested in other things I'm interested in. So like when I did Girl in the Crawl Space, I wanted to do a lot with role-playing gaming and stuff because I really noticed that like if you go to a horror convention, a comic book convention, or like a gaming convention like Gen Con or something, basically the same people are at all those, same kind of people.
Yeah.
So I think that's why role-playing gaming, which I'm really interested in, that's why it plays a big part in Girl in the Crawl Space. And then in Scarecrow County, I'm really into DIY culture, like underground comics and homemade zines and mixtapes and all of that, direct to video movies, grassroots TV, all of that. And so that plays a part in Scarecrow County because one of the main characters is an underground cartoonist. And so I draw on things that I'm interested in. At the time when I did Girl in the Crawl Space, I had a chance to go to Rome, and I went to Cinecittà Studios where like all the spaghetti westerns and all that stuff were shot back in the day. I had a chance to go there and do the tour and everything. And so I think that's why spaghetti westerns are talked about a lot in Girl in the Crawl Space, because I was really interested in it at the time. And just Italian culture, fumetti comics, that kind, all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of times it's based on things in real life. Like when I did in Scare Waves, I've got a little segment about these two guys that rob. It's kind of like a noir also, where these two guys rob a baseball stadium, and they get mixed up with this girl who's Joni Durian, who played one of the leads in my movie. That's where I met her, actually. That's on set. And how do I make just not generic characters? So at the time I had a friend that had been in Afghanistan and Iraq, and some of the things that he said, I made one of the characters an Iraqi war veteran and used some of the funny things that my friend talked about, and kind of in general. Like he would say things like moon's out, goons out, sun's out, guns out, stuff like that. So I put all that in there. So I kind of built a character around that. The other character, one time I was at, I'm really into minor league baseball, and I wanted the other character to be a baseball player. I was at a minor league stadium talking to I was talking to some people, and the mascot came up, and I sort of found out roundabout way that the people that weren't pitching that night, somebody had to wear the mascot uniform, one of the pitchers. And I thought that was kind of weird. Not exactly demeaning, but kind of. And so I had if you watch Scare Waves, my baseball character, he finally snaps and decides he's going to rob them because he's forced to put on the mascot uniform, and because he's had an injury, so he's forced to be the mascot. So a lot of times I just draw from experiences, things I'm interested in, subjects I'm interested in, interesting things I overhear, or things that have happened in the world. I try to put a lot of that kind of stuff in there because I sort of feel like, well, if it interests me, it probably interests people that like these kind of movies. So
right. On the Sharks of the Third Kind. I think I got the title right. Or
Shark Encounters of the Third Kind.
yeah, shark.
When I wrote it, it was called Sharks versus Aliens, which I think's better, but
yeah,
they changed it.
That is a good title. But how much of that was kind of original idea out of yours, or did they have just a straight template?
Okay, so there was a template for that because I did 3. So it was a very similar situation. Like I was in Pennsylvania working on a movie with Mark that has not come out yet, a Bigfoot movie that I wrote. And I think it's going to come out this month. And while we were there, Mark got a 3-movie deal going and asked if I would do all 3 like he had done years ago. And I said, sure, I would do that. Well, they all had titles and plots already. And he said, the bad thing is I need it in 6 weeks. I was like, 6 weeks? Because normally, like, I can write a script from page 1, like, in 3 weeks, usually. So, like, I got to write each of these in 2 weeks each. And his plan originally was to shoot them all back to back. And that, obviously, with COVID and everything, that didn't happen. But I wrote them so they could all be shot very quickly, back to back, and use a lot of similar locations and things like that. So 2 of them are out. The third one hasn't come out yet. The first one was Sharks versus Aliens, Amityville Island, and then the third one hasn't come out yet. But I wrote them all at the same time. Like I wrote them all like in a white heat, like 2 weeks each, like crazy fast. But for Amityville Island, I had written a script for Mark a couple years before that did get made, and it was called Dr. Zombie. And it was about an island overrun by zombies. It was basically like kind of one of Mark's favorite movies is Zombie 2, Zombi 2, the Italian film. That's one of his favorite movies. Another one of his favorite movies is Tomb of the Blind Dead. And so when I had written Dr. Zombie for him, I sort of vibed off these 70s zombie movies. But the movie ended up not getting made. Well, when he told me about Amityville Island, it's like, oh, we need these people to go to this island where they're doing these experiments. I said, wait a minute, I've got the script, Dr. Zombie. So I actually rewrote a lot of that. So that, and actually some of the zombies are still in it. There's a blind zombie in it. And I used some of the same. I used a lot of this. The main thing I did different is one of my old favorite movies is Lust for Freedom, where the women have to box their way to freedom. So I put a women fighting scene at the beginning because I wanted to pay tribute to Lust for Freedom, and that, everybody says about Amityville Island, like it has everything. There's like women escape from prison. There's a possessed bear. There's a possessed shark. There's weird experiment. I mean, all this stuff goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And, it has everything. And so I just was going crazy writing that. But I used a lot of Dr. Zombie and just redid it. So that one was pretty easy. The third one that hasn't come out yet, so I won't say what it is. Whoops. Am I still there? There I am.
Yeah.
It came to me really easily. But Sharks versus Aliens, I couldn't quite get my mind around. And he had written like there was a long outline for it. And I think maybe that was part of it is, I just couldn't get my mind around what exactly it was going to be. And so I did follow the outline. I think the funny thing about it, I wrote it before I finished Girl with the Crawl Space. And when I watch it now, I can see some of my ideas germinating there. If you've seen both movies, like there's a therapist in Shark Encounters, right? It's about a therapist who's got an alien abduction group. I mean, it's much less serious than Girl in the Crawl Space, but I did have this thing with a therapist. And the sheriff in it loves Westerns. He talks about wanting to be a Western writer. And so I realize now that some of my ideas for Girl in the Crawl Space were germinating when I wrote Sharks versus Aliens. But I probably struggled the most with that one. But yes, it did have it it did have a template, and it had an outline. It had a title, which they changed, but it had a title. But again, I kind of know what Mark has on hand, where he can shoot, who's going to be in it. So, I definitely write to that. So I wrote all 3 of them really quickly. And then I ended up writing my own movie pretty much after that. But the third one of that, which is the one I wrote with Father Bennett, maybe hopefully will come out sometime. And then the movie we were actually shooting together, the Bigfoot movie, is supposed to be out this month. And
I saw a trailer for one called House Squatch. Is that the one?
No. Several people have asked me if I wrote that, actually.
Oh, okay.
And I did not write that. I've never written anything under a fake name.
Okay.
Some people think I have, but I never have. I think if you don't want to put your real name on it, you shouldn't write it, in my opinion. But I've never used a fake name. Now, I can't say that there were definitely some fake names in Girl in the Crawl Space in Scarecrow County. I can't tell you that that's not true, but they were not mine. My real name is, I always use my real name.
Right.
But a lot of other people
don't. When you see it come to screen visually, like your characters, how in your mind compare, because obviously they change stuff and, all the effects or makeup artists and everything, but how you like seeing it come from page to screen? Does it match up in your mind, or how do they change it?
I think most of the time any changes kind of come out of necessity, like they ran out of time, ran out of money, somebody didn't show up who was supposed to play X, so Z played that part. That's usually what would derail what I would have thought. But I always feel like I'm really delivering in these kind of projects. I'm delivering somebody else's baby. They're not my baby. So I don't get too hung up on how they turn out, like, oh, they destroyed my vision. There are definitely some movies with my name on it that have much less of my writing in them. Some of them have mostly my, but there's definitely a couple that, don't really, that I'm the sole person on, but maybe I don't have, like Razor Teeth is a perfect example. Probably about 25% of what I wrote in the movie, and the rest of it was either from the original script or just stuff that they had a kind of a troubled production. I think they had to improvise some of the things. And so it didn't quite turn out like anybody thought. So that's probably the worst case. Most of the time I'd say 80, 90, 95% would be my work. And the rest would be things that have happened because of necessity a lot of times.
We have somebody in the chat saying, called Direct to Screenwriter, saying, dropping by to say, hey, hope to hear some juicy screenwriting stories from John on the stream.
Oh, I didn't even see there was a chat thing going on. I see my friend Joe Sherlock in there. Thank you.
Yeah, they posted that alert.
When that alarm was...
Direct to screenwriter. Gosh, what are some juicy stories? I don't know. I mean, I think the one thing that it's really, it's fun to work on a movie. And you feel like you go to war with a group of people. You feel like it's like being in a play. Really, like if you've ever been in a play, like you have this intense, concentrated period of time with a group of people where you're really trying to just get something out. Directing live television is like that. I've directed live sports and things like that over the years. There's this intensity to it, and I think that's kind of the addictive part about working in movies. I don't know if that's a juicy thing, but there's a lot of. I think the hard part is people think that there's a lot of fun and there's a lot of fun energy, but it's a craft, and it's a lot of grinding, and I think that's a part people maybe don't know as much as, a lot of long days and can be intense. And but it is really fun to be involved. I don't know if that's really juicy, but that's kind of what it's like to be I see my friend Joe Sherlock jump. Joe is a B movie. You guys should have him on here if you haven't. He's a B filmmaker in Oregon. I've known about him for 15 or 20 years probably. And I've always said if we didn't live a couple thousand miles apart, we would be like a dangerous pair making movies together. Because we are about the same age. We both worked in a college environment. Joe worked at a college there and in Oregon. So we just have a lot of the same sensibilities. And we finally got to work together, a little bit. When I did Scarecrow County, I asked him, could I use some of his talent out there? Would he be willing to record some voices for me for some of this character in Scarecrow County hears voices a lot. And I wanted to use a lot of the people that I like in Joe's movies. And I was like, Joe, could you record some of the people out there, some of the actors that I like? His son does a voice in it. Tanya Atomic is in it. A lot of those folks. And then I got Jeff to record Maria Di Lorenzo, which, by the way, she, you guys, somebody mentioned me on her episode when she did the voice in Scarecrow County. So I appreciate that came up when you guys interviewed her. That was a nice surprise. So I guess I should say that I think Marie Di Lorenzo in Amityville Exorcism, she's really great in that. That's one of my favorite movies of Mark's that I didn't write, is Amityville Exorcism. So if you haven't seen Marie in anything, that's definitely one to check out. She does a voice in Scarecrow County for me, though.
Yeah, we had her on not too long ago and talked about a lot of those.
Wait a minute, I'm in Thing 666. I didn't see myself. What?
Just as an inset graphic
on an inset graphic on a TV news. What? Man, I must have been looking away at the moment when I didn't see that. Dude, I guess I got to go look at that. So when I did, so Joe was very gracious and he recorded a bunch of voices out there, and they're all in the movie. All of his old troupe that he's got out there. So flash forward a little bit, and Joe was working on a couple movies back to back, and while he was shooting one, it was, hey, we work on Thing 666, which I think actually was going to be Thing 7, or I forget. The number isn't what it doesn't matter, I guess. So I started working on that because I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do that. I've wanted to work with Joe forever, and he helped me, and so I'm going to help you. And that's kind of like when I made Crawl Space. I called in all the favors I had, like, hey, will you come? I felt like I could say to someone like Aaron Ryan, who's been in a bunch of movies, like, hey, if you give me 2 weekends, you can star in this movie. We'll shoot it in 2 weekends, so Joe was like, hey, I'm working on another project, but I need to get this one going. Will you work on it? I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And I've always wanted to work on Dave Sterling movies. He's the Sterling Entertainment's the producer for that. I've always wanted to do again, I always have to think about why am I doing something. And I always wanted to do like part of an addition in a horror franchise. I've always wanted to write a horror franchise movie. And I was like, yeah, of course I'll do that. So, and it turned out really good. I'm really happy with it. There's a couple really good, some really good talent. Tanya's in it. Joe Sherlock's son, Connor Sherlock, has a good part. Jewel Siren, I really like. Another movie director named Joseph Vogel, I think his name is, has a funny part. Anyway, it turned out really good. And
yeah,
I
watched a little bit of it. I don't know if it was my internet or the site or whatever, but like maybe 25 minutes or so. Unfortunately, it was like freezing up on me, but it was pretty interesting. I saw that weird creature with the lesbian couple. Man, that was some crazy stuff going on there. That it is a Thing 666 for sure.
Yeah, it's a hard R for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, it was shot as Thing 7, released as 6. Okay.
Yep.
So I have finally got a chance to work with Joe. After all, he's another guy. Like I was interviewed for this site called the Schlock Pit, which is a British review site, and they had seen it. I think they'd watched Shark Encounters and they wanted to interview me, and so I talked to them. And the guy at the end was like, "Hey, we've got Tubi. This is in England. We have Tubi over here, and I'd like to watch a couple movies over the holidays. Can you suggest some things maybe I haven't heard of?" Which I suggested Ivan's movie that I worked on. But I looked on Tubi and I was like, Joe Sherlock's Drifter is on here. That's one of his really good. That's one of his really good ones. And that British guy wrote back, so, "Oh, I watched Drifter. That was really good." So I was like, if I could turn one more person on to Joe's work, I think he's a real auteur with all that he's done. And it's probably not far behind Mark as far as output, but it just hasn't. He maybe not as ubiquitous in the distribution side, but his movies are really good. So I always try to give him a shout out when I get a chance, and I'm glad we got to work on the Things franchise together. I was really happy with how that turned out. And Joe also made the Scarecrow mask for me in Scarecrow County. I think he did some of the cartooning. Joe's a really good cartoonist also. And I think he drew a couple pictures for me. I can't quite remember if that came to pass, but yeah, if we lived a lot closer together, we'd work together a lot more. And I think that's what originally started me working with Henrik was because it was geographically close. But then, we've just really hit it off. Considering, I mean, we have a 20-year age difference between me and Henrik, and our sensibilities are totally different. Like I think the very first thing you asked me, Stephen, was like, what is my influences? And my influencers like 60s and 70s movies, and Henrik's are 80s and 90s movies. And Joe, I think to some degree, he's probably more like 70s, 80s. I'm not really 80s. Really isn't my 60s and 70s would be more my groove as far as my real interest. I think the other thing that's maybe a little different in my taste is I was a film major in college. I actually studied film and film theory primarily, but also film production. And so, I spent a lot of time watching Italian neorealism, French New Wave, some of the Japanese masters, but I also liked, Japanese rubber monster movies, Soviet science fiction movies. I liked Sammy Terry on late night television out of Indianapolis. And, I have a lot of film background that I like to draw on just because I was a film major in college. And so, I have a pretty broad knowledge, I think, of film history, but it doesn't really extend much past like the 80s. I don't really, I'm really into contemporary film and everything, but like my influences are really 60s, 70s auteur films. I'm really interested in the time period when the studios kind of collapsed and the rise of the auteur film. I'm really interested in, I really love Italian neorealism. I love Italian films in general. I love the French New Wave. I love Japanese Yakuza movies. Just all kinds of, my influences are just all over the place. It's not drawn quite so much. Like to be honest, like, like a lot of people that draw on like 80s films, like Friday the 13th and Halloween movies and all, I was already married and had kids, when all that stuff. So I missed a lot of that. My son was born in 1984. My daughter was born in 88. So anything that happened in that period, I'm not that familiar with. So I missed a lot of what, I missed a lot of the touchstones of the 80s and 90s. So my influences are really before that because that's when I was a young guy. And, that's when I was watching a lot of movies. So I'm familiar now. I think I just told somebody this the other day, one of my favorite things to do now is to get on Tubi. We were talking about like it has my whole career on it. Yeah. But like I'll just kind of get I'll think of, like I'll put in the word Amityville and just see Amityville Cop, Amityville Dollhouse, Amityville blah blah blah, and I'll just click on different movies and watch a little bit and just feel the rhythms of them, or I'll put in the word zombie or scarecrow or ninja or something and just get the feel for what's out there and what people, and Tubi's really good for that because they're, Netflix and Hulu and even to some degree Shudder. I mean, they're not going as deep into virtual dollar bins the way Tubi does. And I can just sort of watch a little bit of a bunch of different things or I'll hear about some director and I'll jump on there and look for some of his titles and maybe watch a little bit of this and that and kind of get the feel for what they're about. And, so I do try to keep up with the industry that way, but my influencers are definitely from a long time ago. And you can see in Crawl Space, long takes, extreme close-ups, slow burn storytelling. I mean, that to me is that's the kind of thing that I like. And Henrik Kuto, who is my director of photography, he really embraced that. He used old lenses to give it that look. So I felt like when I did Scarecrow County, I should make a movie for him, like a 90s movie, my version of a 90s movie. So there's blue gels and there's Dutch angles and there's fog machines and, all of that, because I was trying to make more of a 90s movie. I think it's still more cerebral than I thought when I was making it, but I was trying to make more of a movie for him and his influences rather than just my influences. I was trying to make a more commercial movie, I guess I should say. I don't know how successful I was, but I was trying.
Joe says, John, what an awesome story. Thank you so much.
Joe's a tremendous talent. I'm glad he jumped on here.
If he's the one that did he was promoting us a lot.
Yeah, I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice of him to jump on there. But it's also, he's in Oregon, so it's 4:30 in the afternoon or something. So it's nice and early there.
And time zones are fun.
Yes, they are.
I mess up sometimes when I'm promoting because I'm Central Time and he's Eastern Time, and sometimes I'll flip the times around and I'll promote it and I'll send out the wrong time or something.
Quick, no.
Well, you probably know. You guys both know, if you lived in this area at one time, that Indiana was a holdout for many, many years. We didn't have daylight savings time. And I really still don't quite understand it because it really didn't come about till I was an adult. We just didn't have it. And so we never changed times. We were one of the, I think, 3 states. I think it's maybe Alaska, Hawaii. I think Arizona doesn't either, maybe. And
yeah, I was going to say, I don't think, because we have a friend that does videos and stuff in Arizona, the Horror of Spices. And I think they said that they don't have a
But
time zone.
Indiana finally went to daylight savings time. It's funny because a lot of people think we should have gone to Central Time. And it's funny because in Indiana, northern Indiana, part of it is on Central Time and part of southern Indiana is on Central Time. So we still messed it up.
I remember that confused me so much when I lived in Illinois, and I went to Indiana for some reason. I don't remember what it was. And I hit the 2 different time zones. I was so confused on what time it was.
Yes. It's very troubling. You can drive. We were actually camped down in southern Indiana, and we drove to a nearby town and couldn't figure out what was going on, and we realized it was in the other time zone. It was in Central. So we still don't have it right. But people feel like we should have gone to Central. Or
at least make the whole state one way.
Right. We've done probably 3/4 horror and 1/4 farming and Farmer's Almanac stuff, chickens and time zones. I guess I've kind of gone over. I'm now looking. I've actually on for an hour and a half, guys. I probably cut way into your time.
Oh, it doesn't really matter at all. No, you're I said,
fine.
As long,
you're more interesting probably than what we would talk about.
I don't know about that. I do like your guys' show. I was really appreciative to be asked to be on because I've watched you guys a couple times, especially when you have people that I know on there. And I think you guys do a good job. I think I told you, Stephen, you get invited to someone's podcast. It's called Crappiest Horror Movies Ever. Do you want to come on? It's like, really, guys? There's people that are true fans, and there's people that are doing things because they want to goof on other people, and they're not really fans. They're just wanting to riff, and I've appreciated that you guys, your commentary is intelligent. You know what you guys are talking about as far as industry and the genre. So I really am appreciative of that. And I probably could use a drink of water, so I'm going to sneak off of here. But I hope you guys will ask me back sometime. I really enjoy being on here with you guys.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, it's been great.
All right. Well, thank you again. Any last things you want to tell us before you go, or promote, or check out, or?
I hope anybody can find me. I'm trying to be active on social media. I'm at John Oak Dalton on Instagram, Twitter. You can friend me on Facebook. Those are the 3 main places I am. I have a tiny newsletter called I Was Bigfoot's Champ, that an e-newsletter that has some behind the scenes things. I'm hoping to get back to, hopefully all of us can get back to work here pretty soon. And I may have a couple things in the hopper. I don't know when I'm going to shoot another movie, but I'm going to start working on some other scripts for some folks again. So, and I've got a couple things that have been made that haven't come out yet. So I'm hoping you guys will see some new things from me here pretty soon. So again, it was really nice of you guys to ask me. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your night.
You're welcome. You too.
That was great.
Yep. Yeah, he's done some interesting stuff there. I'm glad he came on, and that was cool. I don't know if Joe's still here or not, but I'll definitely have to check out.
Yes, thank you, Joe, if you're still here for promoting.
Yep, I want to check out that Drifter or whatever that sounded. Was that on Tubi? I think he said, or I don't know.
I think he said it was on TV.
I'm gonna have to check it out. So
I never got around to seeing the things. I know you sent me that link, but I didn't have time to do it. We had to go shopping the last 2 days.
I was gonna bring up Calamity Jane too, Revenge, but next time if we have
next time. Yeah, I had it in my questions as well.
Actually, he told a lot of interesting stories and other stuff that it just cut into the other questions. I mean, it was all fine though. I don't care, but
right. Yeah, I was gonna ask how his little free library thing was going, but like I said, that could be always saved for next time.
Yeah. Yeah, about that too, how he goes to the library and all that. But yeah, but it was a good show.
Yeah, definitely save for next time. I've learned, since sometimes we'll have like somebody come on again, I've learned not to delete my notes anymore.
There you
go. For a while I was deleting my notes, but I have learned my lesson. It was either somebody got rescheduled or something. I think I don't remember the situation, but I deleted my notes. I was like, oh crap, I have to redo all my notes.
Oh no.
So I've learned. Hopefully my tablet doesn't run out of space.
You have to get some 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte SD cards.
Or transferred onto the computer or something.
There you go. Print out the notes. Just keep a booklet. It'll print them all out by guest, alphabetical order by guest. There we go.
This stupid thing doesn't like to stay on this table. Oh, I think I fixed that thumbnail. Yes. Damn it.
Well, I had screenshotted it anyway, the original one. So, but yeah.
Yeah, when we get done with here, I'll send you, because I had an idea how to fix it, and I got back on the computer last night, but it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to send you a message at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I don't know if I was going to send it to him tomorrow.
I don't know if I was up or asleep. I have random weird sleep times. Like I might be up, I might not be up. I'll sleep in, I'll go to bed at this time. I'll be in bed before that. Whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I might get up about 6:30 or 7 tomorrow, maybe do some door dashing. Sometimes I'll go about 8:39, whatever I feel like. That's what's great about it. Just go whenever. So,
if my truck ever gets fixed, I want to do that so I can have something scheduled.
on your own schedule.
Yeah.
So it's not scheduled. Just, yeah, whenever I feel like it.
That way I don't have to worry about getting my son from school, or if I have something else I got to do, I don't have to worry about it.
Just see, where did my control go? I was going to look at Tubi and see if that Drifter's
It's
on
just
there.
talking right now.
I want to make him an offer. If they ever need spaceship designs, I can do it because I used to do it all the time in CAD CAM in junior high and high school.
He usually just does the screenplays. Well, he's directed a couple things, but
I know, but he probably got
yeah. Well, was on for like an hour and a half, and he wanted to go. So, but
Yeah.
we'll have him on again eventually because
I
we.
know you guys send messages to those people all the time. I didn't want to do it during the whole stream. I couldn't think of what it was called. I gotta wait till Gary.
Okay.
I sort of heard that. What was that? I mean, it doesn't matter.
Something about he wanted to send something about sending John a starship design or something. I don't know.
Maybe for his next sci-fi movie. Here, this is the story. There you go.
Yeah, he said he wanted to send him a starship design.
Yeah, I've been designing starships in CAD CAM since junior high. So
Hi, Doomsday. You just missed out on the guest. What was that? Was that me or you?
No, that was just some weird alert popped up mail.
Oh.
So
How you doing, Doomsday?
yeah, and he even stayed on longer and thought, like when I had talked to John, he was saying, "Yeah, I'll probably on an hour." And I even told him, "Yeah, it ends up sometimes people go longer." Yeah, well,
Yeah, he was on for like an hour and a half, but yeah, he had to get going.
So yeah, he was surprised he stayed on that long, and it's like a lot of people have done that. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know.
They get talking or have fun or whatever, and just the time goes.
It does
You
go
don't
pretty
realize
quick.
it.
Yeah.
It's like, man, we've like that one time we was on for like 3 hours. It's like, man, it didn't seem like it was 3 hours. And I think that was just me and you.
I think, was it the franchise one or Christmas something like
Hell, I
that?
don't
Or
remember. I think it was a franchise because that's the one I had split in half to
In the
split
two.
onto Anchor. So I had to put it in 2 parts.
yeah. Let's see. I was about to see if Drifter is on there. Let's see. Oh, I'm on my Wild Eye list. I was going through.
They're not much better in the lake.
I had a great guest tonight. May be interested in having on with you guys.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, John's in the chat. I just saw that. It kind of looks like the same design as Doomsday.
Oh,
I didn't
it
Thank you, John. As
You're
John
welcome,
says, thank
John.
you. And thank you, John. It was honored. Come on.
Uh,
And Joe as well.
and Joe, yep. Yeah, I guess we'll check out other stuff of yours and maybe have you on, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to see I didn't realize that Doomsday had a guest. We'll have to investigate that and see who that is.
Yep. Oh, okay, that's why he missed it, because he had a guest tonight and he just missed John. That's what it was. Okay. Let's see. Drifter. I'm looking that movie up real quick.
Yeah, since we was on here, I didn't get to see what guest he had. So. But yeah, we're glad to have John on.
I think I might have found it on Tubi here. Let me see. 2014, this throwback horror romp tells the story of a sketchy drifter who hides out in vacant houses, wreaks bloody havoc. Let me see. Oh, yeah, directed by Joe Sherlock. Yep, I found it.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'll watch it later. Yep.
Interesting.
So sounds interesting. Bloody havoc on anyone who comes near it. Anything with bloody havoc, you can't go wrong with that. The bloodier, the better.
Yeah, I don't care if it's bloody or not, as long as it's. Usually, it has to be at least a little funny for me to enjoy it. But being a comedy is not a requirement because my likes are like all over the place. So, but usually, some sort of comedy horrors. It's usually my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I was seeing who was in it. If I knew anyone. Richard Johnson, Stephanie, probably gonna say that last name wrong, Lunsford, and then Bob Olin. Okay. Let me add it to my list so I can watch it.
Yeah, I'll have to add it to mine when I get off here.
So who did you have on tonight, Doomsday?
No, you didn't say who it was.
Yeah.
We're curious. Curious minds want to know.
Yes.
Since we had to miss it. I had to hide. I have a little pop-up green screen. I had to hide it behind my shark here. My cat was trying to use it as a scratching post.
Oh gosh.
Jason Pitts.
I'm
Interesting.
not sure if I know who that is or not.
I have no clue. But I'm really bad with names. That's the only reason. But a couple of his actresses.
Was that who I was? I know I was. Someone had mentioned a couple people to me. Maybe he was mentioned to me prior. I don't know. Because now that I think it does sound familiar. Because I know I got some messages about some people and some of their movies, and they're interested in being guests that I'm gonna talk to. That's probably one of them. What movies or movie did he do? Because now that I look, I'm like, yeah, Jason Pitts. It sounds familiar now.
I'm horrible with names. I'd have to like see what they look like or pull it up and look at. But yeah, movies I'd probably get.
Oh, yeah, Alone in Master. Yeah, duh. No wonder why I know. I feel like an idiot now if he sees this. I was already talking to him about it.
You got to understand, because me and Steve message a lot. We're always talking about different people. I've been barbarian him for about like 3 different people, I think, at least. And God knows how many people he talks to. So try to keep everybody straight.
No, but I literally talked to him and he told me about those movies to watch.
Well, now you
I'll watch
because you sent me that.
I'm like, Jason Pitts, why do I know that name? Duh. I literally just talked to him last night.
Yeah, then you sent me the screenshot or whatever of those.
Yeah, I told you those. Yeah. Remember, I did send you those movie titles to watch.
Yeah, once I saw that, I was like, oh, yeah.
Masquerade and Alone. Yeah.
Because I've been working on at least 2 people, maybe 3. Actually, I think more. I've sent more messages out, but I haven't got replies. But at least been talking to 2 people, possibly 3 to get them on the show. God knows how many people you've talked to. So trying to keep everybody straight, that's a chore.
So yeah, I'll be checking those films out for sure. Yeah, because I told him once I watch those, I'll figure something out, whether we do a show there or after or what time or maybe a different day or whatever works out. So I always accommodate my guest if he can't do it on Saturday, whenever. So or for earlier time, or it doesn't matter. So but yeah. So thanks for thinking of us though. But yeah, already talking to him. So. But yeah, I'll have to catch your replay or whatever and watch it. So
yeah, I'll have to check it out. We try to work in everybody that wants to come in.
Yeah, there's actually a couple people who are interested in coming on. There was some stuff that they were working and wanted to talk about. I got to get back to them too. It's like, I was like, yeah, I'll get you in eventually. But then there's other, dates that I already have set up and everything. And it's like, oh, I got to get back to them. I feel bad. So some other independent film people and stuff too. Because I like talking to everybody in the business, regardless of what.
Right. Yeah.
Done. So I support it all. So it's just a matter of me seeing certain things of theirs and switching around dates and who knows. So, but always open to new guests. So
definitely. But yeah, we're always trying to work on certain people or try to have a theme of a certain thing. Like, I don't know if you've announced what theme that we was working on for next month or not, but trying to work on certain people for that. And
yeah, since next month, we could probably have some other guests too if we do earlier shows or whatever. It wouldn't matter. But basically, though, since it's Women of Horror Month next month, figure get all women actresses and directors and all of that. So
At least
Got a couple dates, Phil. Well, we'll see. So yeah, I know end of the month. We'll probably be announcing that soon, just to clear up just a couple of things real quick. Last minute things, but so
trying our best.
yeah. I mean, if it doesn't work out that way, and we do have men come in too, that's fine. Whatever. It was just since it is Women Horror Month, that was what I thought maybe try to do, but
Right.
we'll see. What I mean, but whatever we pull off, we pull off. So
Excuse me.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it there. Let's see. I think I don't know. We'll be working on something for next week probably, because I don't think we have anyone coming on yet. But I know the 19th, Jenna Canal from Terrifier will be coming on, and Bye Bye Man. So stay tuned for that, and that'll be a 3:00 in the afternoon show. We're going to be doing it earlier, so. But of course, I'll put up the reminders for all of that. So
I gotta double check, make sure I got that in my notes. Yeah, 3 p.m. Eastern. Okay.
So 2:00 for you.
Yeah, I've learned to put, if I put the time next to them, I've learned to put both of the times on there, so I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
Been getting great guests, yes. All our guests have been very good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of reaching like outside of our reach. I'm like reaching for the stars. I've got like some I would say big for us. Anyway.
I've got a couple of bigger ones I'm trying for too, but we'll see if it gets through. And
both of the two that have gotten back to me have both said they're interested, but they're very busy. So eventually, I don't want to say who it is, but eventually we'll hopefully get them on.
Yeah.
Cross fingers.
So
it's just getting a hold of them because they're so busy.
And then there's someone I've got a hold of, but that person's so busy. So it's like, But it'll be a fun one when that person comes on. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think either one of the ones I'm talking to would be fun as well.
It's like we don't want to jinx ourselves yet.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, if you follow the Facebook group and everything, we announce them. So as soon as we get official word, I post it up. So it's fun. So it's a challenge. It's work. But it's all been worth it so far. I've enjoyed it.
Yes.
So. Got to hear some great stories from people and learn some stuff. So just keep on doing that. So I'm getting kind of hungry. I'm not sure what I'm gonna have. I had some pizza earlier, but I'm still kind of hungry. So I might go get something to eat. So that's it for now. I
gotta figure out what to make.
Sandwich.
Turkey.
I left the butter out for you.
Oh, I guess I'm making a grilled cheese sandwich.
A grilled cheese. That sounds good too. So.
Yeah, we were kind of pizzaed out for tonight because we usually have pizza get frozen pizzas like every Saturday. That way I could be here and they can make their own stuff. But
yeah, you too, Doomsday, and we'll check out the show too. So
yeah.
So I might check that out either tomorrow or later tonight or after work. So, but I'll watch it for sure. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and commenting. And those of you who are just checking out the replay, appreciate it. And stay tuned for next week's episode. Bye.
Bye.
And my battery dying. There we go. All right. So perfect.